Alright, so after countless delays, they have finally released Top Gun Maverick. My sort of relationship with the first one, I don't have a sort of nostalgia feeling that a lot of other people going into this would have. This movie's been kind of described as a bunch of middle-aged men going to go to the theater to go relive their childhood or something, and that does make sense. I hadn't seen the original Top Gun until the day before I saw this, so I really have no emotional connection to that movie whatsoever. And my thoughts on the first one, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I didn't dislike it. I definitely did get enjoyment out of it, but I'm going to be honest, I think that this movie is much better than the first one, and by quite a bit, to be honest with you. I think the first one I'd probably give about a 3 out of 5, and I'll give you my rating for this movie at the end, but let's just get right into this. Tom Cruise is continually just great in movies, period. He's great with action, he's great with dramatic moments, and he just proves that yet again in this movie. This is one of his better performances, in my opinion. I think he does a great job, specifically with his dynamic with Miles Teller's character, who is obviously Goose's son. And if you've seen the first one, you know Goose died. And Miles Teller does not have a very good relationship with Tom Cruise in this movie. And that creates a very interesting dynamic when Teller has to be Cruise's student. So there's a lot of really interesting dynamics going around through this. There's also sort of a relationship blooming between Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly, who is here. And honestly, that might have been my least favorite part of this movie. It felt very shoehorned in, which I was not a big fan of. I felt like a lot of the time we were spending between Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly was sort of wasted when it would just randomly be thrown in there for no apparent reason. Val Kilmer's also in this. He does a great job with what he's given, and Tom Cruise and him obviously have a really cool dynamic. Miles Teller yet again proves his amazing acting abilities that he started showing off really in Whiplash. He does get a bad rap sometimes, but in this, he's very good. He's playing a very emotional role where it's also kind of a meaty role because he has to go back and forth between being the obedient soldier slash student to Tom Cruise's character, but also having an emotional connection to Tom Cruise's character that really hurts him when he has to listen to everything he says and also hears about his father. Glenn Powell's also in here as Hangman, which is a very similar character to a character we had in the first movie, and he sort of plays that character pretty much the same as in the first movie, except he just pulls off this kind of jerky role, but also he is likable, and he does get some redeeming moments throughout the movie as well, specifically around the end, which I really enjoyed. Speaking of the end, I felt like this movie was quite predictable, to be honest. I felt like every single thing that was happening in this movie you could have predicted from the beginning, but honestly, that's okay because I think that they did make the correct decisions with how they sort of pulled all the strings together and had it end. There are a couple moments throughout the movie where it seems like relationships maybe have not fully worked the way they were supposed to or developed, and sometimes it feels a little off. I felt like there were a couple moments with Miles Teller and Tom Cruise where maybe it was a little rushed, their sort of rekindling, but also I thought for the most part they did a really good job with that. And of course the movie is just very tense, very thrilling. It's a lot of danger all the time, which is what Tom Cruise is known for, and I thought that was really good. John Hamm also plays Tom Cruise's boss, and though he doesn't have the biggest role in the movie, I do think he does a very good job here. He's definitely threatening and definitely a good adversary for Tom Cruise's character. The funny part about this versus the first one is in the first one, you're rooting for Tom Cruise, who's kind of an underdog. In this movie, he's got his entire situation figured out, and you're still sort of rooting for him, even though he's telling all these group of underdogs what to do. A lot of directors, I feel like, would have kind of a difficult time sort of working that dynamic and doing it well and making you root for the right people. And I think Joseph Kosinski really shows off his directing skills here. I thought he did a great job making everybody likable in a way that worked and didn't have certain characters sort of more liked or more favored over others. And I think that shows off really good directing talent when you know how to balance your characters, and that was a giant skill set of this movie. And of course, the sound design and cinematography to this movie are amazing. We could tell that just from the trailers, and they are just as good as expected. I think this is a very well-made movie, and I also do think this is one of the best films that have come out this year so far. I haven't seen a crazy amount of films, but I've tried to see a lot of the big ones, and this movie definitely is very good. It's no Everything Everywhere All at Once for me, but I do think it has beat out all of the superhero movies that are come out this year that a lot of people may have as their number one of the year, whether it's The Batman or Doctor Strange. I think this pretty easily beat out all of those for me. I think this is a very good movie. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I would highly recommend everyone go and see this. Even if you don't have a big attachment to the original, I think this is much better. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and see you guys.